September 12, 1958. Big Sam had been Bumpy Johnson's bodyguard for 5 years. The man Bumpy called brother. That's exactly why the Italian mob paid him $50,000 to pull the trigger. 300 people packed Lenox Lounge that night. The air thick with cigarette smoke and jazz music. Sam walked in through the back entrance, raised his gun, aimed at the back of Bumpy's head, and pulled the trigger. What happened in the next 60 seconds would change the entire power structure of Harlem forever. But to understand why this moment mattered, you need to know who Bumpy Johnson really was. Harlem, 1930s. While most Americans struggled through the Great Depression, one man built an empire in the shadows. Ellsworth Raymond Johnson. The streets called him Bumpy, a nickname earned from the bumps on the back of his head. Battle scars from his early days as an enforcer. By 1958, he controlled every numbers racket, every speakeasy, every dollar that moved through Harlem. The Italian Mafia ran New York. Bumpy ran Harlem. And that was the problem. The 5 families wanted Harlem. $50 million a year flowed through those streets. 50 million reasons to eliminate one man. Lucky Luciano tried to take it in 1936. Sent 20 men to Bumpy's apartment. Only 3 walked out alive. Frank Costello sent his best men in 1943. Professional killers from Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia. They disappeared into Harlem like water into sand. Meyer Lansky offered partnerships in 1947. Promised Bumpy 40% of everything. Bumpy said no. Told Lansky that Harlem wasn't for sale at any price. 23 assassination attempts in 15 years. Poisoned food. Car bombs. Snipers on rooftops. Ambushes in dark alleys. Bumpy survived them all. He survived because he understood something the Italians never learned. In Harlem, information traveled faster than bullets. Every grandmother on every stoop was his eyes. Every kid playing stickball was his ears. Every shopkeeper, every janitor, every taxi driver reported to Bumpy. You couldn't plan anything in his territory without him knowing before you finished the sentence. Because Bumpy Johnson didn't just have money. He had something the Italians could never buy. Loyalty. Real loyalty. The kind where 40,000 people would die for one man. Big Sam understood this better than anyone. Samuel Big Sam Crawford. 6'4", 260 pounds of pure muscle. Born in Harlem. Raised in Harlem. Would die for Harlem. He'd taken 3 bullets for Bumpy in 1953 outside the Cotton Club. Doctors said he'd never walk again. 6 months later, Sam was back on the street, standing beside Bumpy like nothing happened. Saved his life during the Genovese ambush in 1955. 4 men came through the door. Sam put them all down before they could raise their weapons. Slept outside Bumpy's bedroom door for 5 straight years. Never married. Never took a vacation. Never missed a single day. His whole life revolved around keeping Bumpy Johnson alive. Bumpy treated Sam like family. Paid for Sam's mother's cancer treatment in 1956. Cost $14,000. Bumpy never mentioned it again. Never held it over Sam's head. Just did it because that's what family does. When Sam's nephew got arrested for something he didn't do, Bumpy made 2 phone calls. The kid walked free the next morning. When Sam wanted to buy his sister a house in Queens, Bumpy gave him the down payment as a birthday gift. Bumpy trusted Sam with his life. His wife's life. His daughter's life. That trust was worth more than gold in Harlem. Sam was the only person who knew where Bumpy kept his emergency cash. The only person with keys to all 3 of Bumpy's apartments. The only person allowed to drive Bumpy's daughter to school. 3 weeks earlier, Vincent Gigante walked into Sam's apartment at 3 a.m. Chin Gigante. The man who'd one day fake insanity for 30 years to avoid prison. Walking around Greenwich Village in a bathrobe talking to parking meters. But in 1958, he was Carlo Gambino's enforcer. The problem solver. The man they sent when diplomacy failed and violence needed to look like accident. Chin didn't knock. He had 3 men with him. They sat Sam down at his own kitchen table. Laid $50,000 in cash right there. Neat stacks of $100 bills. More money than Sam would see in 10 lifetimes. More money than most men in Harlem would see in 20 lifetimes. "We've been watching you," Chin said. 5 years with Bumpy. You're smart, loyal, capable. But you're also tired. We can see it. Living in another man's shadow gets heavy after a while." Sam stayed silent. Chin continued. "Here's the situation. We need Bumpy Johnson gone. Not arrested. Not scared away. Gone. Permanent. And you're the only person who can make that happen. You walk beside him every day. You carry his spare gun. You know his schedule better than his own wife. One shot. That's all we need. One shot and this money is yours." The offer was simple. Kill Bumpy Johnson. Walk away rich. Disappear to Miami, Los Angeles, anywhere far from New York. Start fresh. New name. New life. New everything. Or refuse and die tonight. Chin made that part very clear. Sam either took the job or never left his apartment alive. He had 48 hours to decide. Sam didn't sleep for 2 days. He'd grown up in Bumpy's world. Started as a numbers runner at 15. Moved up to enforcer at 18. Became bodyguard at 23. He'd watched Bumpy pay for funerals when families couldn't afford them. 20, 30 funerals a year. No questions asked. Saw him fund schools the city ignored. Bought books. Paid teachers. Fixed broken windows. Witnessed him feed entire blocks during winter. Thanksgiving turkeys. Christmas presents for kids. Coal for heating. This wasn't just his boss. This was Harlem's protector. Harlem's father. Harlem's heart. But $50,000. That money meant freedom. No more looking over his shoulder. No more wondering which night would be his last. No more living in Bumpy's shadow. September 10th. Sam called Chin Gigante. He accepted the deal. The plan was perfect. Simple. Clean. Sam had access Chin's men could never get. He walked beside Bumpy everywhere. Carried Bumpy's spare gun. Knew his schedule down to the minute. Friday night, Lenox Lounge. Bumpy would be there from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Same booth in the back. Same routine for 8 years. Sam would walk in at midnight. One shot to the head. Walk out the back door. Chin's car waiting outside. Gone before anyone understood what happened. September 12th arrived. Sam woke up at 6 a.m. The gun felt heavier than usual. He checked it 3 times. Loaded. Safety off. Ready. He met Chin's men at noon. They ran through the plan again. Nothing changed. Everything set. At 10 p.m., Sam drove to Lenox Lounge. Parked 2 blocks away like Chin instructed. Walked slowly through Harlem streets he'd known his whole life. Every face felt like accusation. Every corner held memories of Bumpy's kindness. But $50,000 waiting. New life waiting. Freedom waiting. 11:47 p.m. Sam stood outside Lenox Lounge. Music poured through the walls. Laughter. Life. People who trusted Bumpy Johnson to keep them safe. People who'd never forgive what Sam was about to do. His hand shook as he reached for the door. Inside, 300 people filled every corner. The jazz band played hot. Couples danced. Men played cards. Women laughed. Normal Friday night in Harlem. But nothing about tonight would end normal. Bumpy sat in his usual booth. Back corner. Left side. Facing the front door like always. Could see everyone who walked in. Everyone except someone coming from the back entrance. The entrance only Bumpy's inner circle used. The entrance Sam had keys to. 11:52 p.m. Sam entered through the back. His gun tucked inside his jacket. Heavy. Cold. Final. He moved through the kitchen. The cooks didn't look up. They knew Sam. Trusted Sam. Everyone trusted Sam. The hallway connecting kitchen to main room stretched forever. 10 steps that felt like miles. Sam's heart hammered against his chest. His mouth went dry. His vision narrowed. Just 10 more steps. Raise the gun. 1 shot. Walk away. Simple. He reached the doorway. Could see Bumpy's back perfectly. 20 feet away. Easy shot. Impossible to miss. Sam's hand moved to his jacket. Fingers wrapped around cold metal. This was it. The moment that would change everything. 11:58 p.m. Sam pulled out the gun. Raised it. Aimed at the back of Bumpy's head. His finger found the trigger. Everyone around him kept laughing, dancing, living. Nobody noticed the man about to commit murder. 2 pounds of pressure. That's all it took. 2 pounds between life and death. Between loyalty and betrayal. Between honor and $50,000. Sam pulled the trigger. Click. The gun was empty. Sam pulled again. Click. Again. Click. 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 5 times. 6 times. Nothing. No bullets. No explosion. No death. Just hollow clicks that somehow cut through jazz music and filled Sam's entire world. His brain couldn't process it. He'd checked the gun that morning. Loaded. 6 bullets. He'd checked again before leaving his apartment. 6 bullets. He'd checked in the car. 6 bullets. How was it empty? Bumpy turned around in his booth. Slow. Deliberate. Like he had all the time in the world. Looked directly at Sam. No surprise in his eyes. No fear. No shock. No anger. Just tired disappointment. Like a father watching his son fail. Like a teacher watching a student choose the wrong path. Like someone who already knew the ending before the story began. Bumpy stood up slowly. Smoothed his suit jacket. Adjusted his tie. Walked toward Sam. Each step echoed in the silent room. 300 people stopped moving. Stopped breathing. The band stopped playing. Dancers froze mid-step. Card players held their hands motionless. Everyone watched. Bumpy stopped 3 feet from Sam. Close enough to whisper. Close enough to see the fear in Sam's eyes. Close enough for Sam to see the sadness in his. Reached into his pocket. Pulled out 6 bullets. Sam's bullets. The bullets that should have been in the gun. Held them in his palm between them. Let Sam see them clearly. I unloaded your gun 3 days ago, Bumpy said quietly. Voice calm. Almost gentle. Tuesday morning. While you slept. Came into your apartment at 4 a.m. You were dreaming. Mumbling something about your mother. I took your gun off your nightstand. Removed every bullet. Put it back. You never knew I was there. Sam's legs almost gave out. 3 days ago. Before he even called Chin. Before he accepted the money. Before he made his final choice. Before he convinced himself he could do it. Bumpy knew. Had always known. You think Chin Gigante walks into someone's apartment at 3 a.m. without me knowing? Bumpy continued. You think $50,000 appears on a kitchen table in my neighborhood without me hearing about it? The room stayed frozen. Sam couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. I knew Tuesday morning, Bumpy said. Could have killed you Tuesday afternoon. But I needed you to make this choice yourself. Needed you to walk in here. Needed you to pull that trigger. Because now everyone sees what happens when someone betrays me. Bumpy turned to face the crowd. Raised his voice so every person heard clearly. Sam took money to kill me. Walked in here to shoot me in the back. But his gun was empty. You know why? Because in Harlem, nobody moves without me knowing. Nobody breathes without me knowing. And nobody kills me because I'm always 10 steps ahead. He turned back to Sam. Placed the bullets in Sam's shaking hand. Closed Sam's fingers around them. You can keep the $50,000. Consider it payment for 5 years of service. But you leave Harlem tonight. You leave New York tonight. And you never come back. Because if I see you again, these bullets find their way back into a gun. Understand? Sam nodded. Couldn't form words. Bumpy stepped aside. Cleared a path to the door. Go. Sam walked. past 300 silent faces, past his former friends, past his former life, out the front door into September night air. Chin's car sat waiting 2 blocks away like promised. Sam got in. The driver pulled away without speaking. Inside that car, Sam understood something the Italian Mafia never could. You can't kill one man when 40,000 would die for him. You can't buy loyalty that runs deeper than money. You can't break something built on respect, protection, and love. Chin Gigante received word at 12:14 a.m. His plan failed. His money wasted. His reputation damaged. He called Carlo Gambino immediately. Emergency meeting scheduled for Sunday morning, September 14th. All 5 families gathered in a warehouse in Brooklyn. Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Topic: Bumpy Johnson. 40 men in that room. Bosses. Underbosses. Consiglieri. The most powerful criminals in America sitting around one table. 24 years they'd tried to take Harlem. 24 years of failure. Bodies stacked up. Money lost. Pride destroyed. Reputation damaged. Carlo Gambino stood at the head of the table. The man who'd built the most powerful crime family in American history. 60 years old. Quiet. Calculating. Deadly. He rarely called emergency meetings. When he did, people listened. He laid down one rule that morning. One rule that would hold for the next 10 years until Bumpy's natural death. We leave Harlem alone. We leave Bumpy Johnson alone. That territory belongs to him. Anyone who violates this rule answers to me personally. Vito Genovese protested. The hot-headed boss who'd one day order a hit on Frank Costello. Harlem meant too much money to ignore. $50 million a year. They couldn't just walk away from that. What would people think? What would it say about their power? Carlo cut him off. Slammed his hand on the table. The room went silent. It's not about the money anymore, Vito. It's about the message. You saw what happened to Sam. We paid him $50,000. Gave him the perfect opportunity. And what happened? Bumpy knew about our plan before we even finished making it. He had 3 days to kill his own bodyguard. 3 days. But he chose to let him walk in and pull an empty trigger instead. You understand what that means? The room stayed quiet. Carlo continued. That's not just smart. That's sending a message to every family in New York. To every soldier. To every associate. He's untouchable. He knew we were coming. He always knows. And instead of hiding or running or fighting, he orchestrated theater. He turned potential death into demonstration of absolute power. Made Sam's betrayal prove that betraying Bumpy Johnson was impossible. That's genius. The room went quiet. Everyone understood. Bumpy didn't just survive an assassination attempt. He orchestrated theater. Turned potential death into demonstration of absolute power. Made Sam's betrayal prove that betraying Bumpy Johnson was impossible. Frank Costello spoke up. The Prime Minister of the underworld. The man who corrupted half of New York's politicians. I've tried to kill him 4 times. Lost 11 men. Spent $200,000. He's still walking around Harlem like he owns every brick. Because he does. And unlike us, he's not just feared. He's loved. You can't fight that. You can't buy that. You can't kill that. The vote was unanimous. Harlem belonged to Bumpy Johnson. Untouchable. Untakeable. Unbreakable. News traveled fast. By Monday morning, every criminal in New York knew the story. By Tuesday, it reached Philadelphia. Wednesday, Chicago. Within 2 weeks, gangsters in Los Angeles and Miami were talking about the night Big Sam pulled an empty trigger. The story grew with each telling. Some versions had Bumpy catching the bullet with his teeth. Others claimed he'd replaced Sam's gun with a fake. But the truth was somehow more impressive than any exaggeration. Big Sam walked into Lenox Lounge. Aimed at Bumpy's head. Pulled the trigger. Gun was empty. Bumpy let him live. The Italian Mafia backed down. One man defeated organized crime's greatest minds without firing a single shot. without spilling a single drop of blood, without breaking a single law that could land him in prison. Bumpy's legend grew impossible. Kids on street corners told the story like mythology. Parents taught it to their children as a lesson about loyalty and betrayal. Adults whispered it like prayer during hard times. Criminals studied it like scripture, trying to understand how one man could be so many steps ahead. The night Big Sam pulled an empty trigger became the moment everyone understood. Bumpy Johnson wasn't just a gangster. He was something different. Something higher. Something that couldn't be beaten by guns or money or violence or treachery. Because real power isn't about who can kill the fastest. Real power is knowing what your enemy will do before they know themselves. Real power is turning betrayal into loyalty's greatest advertisement. Real power is letting a man pull the trigger just to prove he never had a chance. Sam disappeared that night. Some say Miami. Others claim Mexico. A few swear they saw him in Montreal years later, working construction under a different name. But nobody knows for sure. He vanished completely. The man who betrayed Bumpy Johnson became a ghost story. A warning. A lesson. Bumpy Johnson died in 1968. Heart attack at Wells Restaurant in Harlem. Natural causes. No bullets. No poison. No revenge. He was 62 years old. Thousands attended his funeral. They shut down entire blocks. Police had to control crowds. The man who survived 23 assassination attempts died peacefully eating breakfast. But September 12, 1958 remained the story people told most. The night that proved something everyone in Harlem already knew. You can't kill a man who already knows you're coming. You can't betray someone who sees betrayal before it forms. You can't defeat someone who turns your own plan into his victory. Big Sam pulled that trigger expecting death. Instead, he triggered legend. One sound changed history. Not the explosion of a bullet, but the empty click of fate itself, proving that some men can't be touched. Some men see 10 steps ahead. Some men build loyalty that turns enemies into cautionary tales. That's who Bumpy Johnson was. Not because he could kill, but because he didn't have to. Because you can't kill one man when 40,000 would die for him.